This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Let's make a deal. Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky will be at the White House Friday to deal with President Trump. They'll sign a new mineral rights deal worth billions of dollars. President Trump says it'll go a long way toward compensating the American taxpayer for the war in Ukraine.
Look, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine and Russia fighting a war that should have never, ever happened.
Trump adds the mineral rights deal provides the U.S. a guarantee on the money it's invested in Ukraine.
We're helping a country through a very, very big problem, a problem like very few people have had. Shouldn't have had this problem because it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, so we have to straighten it out. But the American taxpayer now is going to get their money back.
Mr. Trump says future U.S. military assistance for Ukraine will be contingent on us being able to access rare earth minerals in Ukraine. Trump's special envoy to Ukraine is retired Army General Keith Kellogg.
I'm very, very positive about what he's going to do with this war, the largest war in Europe since World War II, and I absolutely believe and trust in him that this war is going to come to a conclusion in the near term. Very confident.
The Zelensky visit Friday comes as the Russia-Ukraine war enters its fourth year. President Trump's cost-cutting campaign cleared a major hurdle last night in Congress. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Thank you all for staying on a long night. We got it done.
By the slimmest of margins, they got it done. 217 to 215. Republicans approving a budget blueprint that cuts spending and slashes taxes. Reporter Caitlin Huey-Byrne.
This is really the first step in passing Trump's agenda through Congress. And last night's vote, as difficult as that was, that's really just the first blueprint. Now, the various committees have to go through that arduous process of filling it out with actual policy.
NBC's Ryan Nobles.
The bill passed in the House last night would have a very difficult time getting 51 votes in the Senate. So the two chambers are going to have to try and decide if they want to try and pass just one massive bill or break it into parts. At this point, President Trump has said that his preference is, of course, one big, beautiful bill.
Kentucky's Thomas Massie was the only Republican to vote against the budget blueprint. Elon Musk was in attendance today as the president hosted the first cabinet meeting of his second term. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on why Musk was in that room.
Just to talk about DOGE's efforts and how all of the cabinet secretaries are identifying waste, fraud, and abuse at their respective agencies.
Musk is leading the president's Department of Government Efficiency as a special government employee, not as administrator of DOGE. The administrator of DOGE is a 53-year-old Nashville woman named Amy Gleason. Large-scale firings are expected soon at several federal agencies.
The Office of Management and Budget and the Office of Personnel Management are set to issue a memo telling federal agencies to prepare for large-scale layoffs. The memo is expected to ask agencies to submit reorganization plans by mid-March in anticipation of the broad staffing cuts.
CBS's Carissa Lawson. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says the state will hire federal workers who've been fired as a result of the president's efforts to root out waste and abuse in Washington.
The federal government might say you're fired, but here in New York, we say you're hired. In fact, we love federal workers. Whatever your skills, we value public service.
The governor launching her You're Hired initiative yesterday. The state has posted potential jobs online. Republican Assemblyman Angela Morinello is not impressed.
If she's referring to jobs within the government, we're bloated already. If it's just general jobs, we have many unemployed within the state.
Morinello says the governor's proposal smacks of politics.
They're going to waive civil service requirements. They're going to give extra benefits. benefits. Why not give them to our citizens, those that have been here, those that have suffered through the high taxes? So I think this is just another gimmick.
New York has the highest population loss of any state in the country going back over a decade. The Assemblyman says it's because people cannot afford to live in New York any longer. A new Trump administration policy requires illegal immigrants ages 14 and up register with the federal government or face fines and possible jail time. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley.
Am I in favor of figuring out where all of these people are? You bet I am. Am I in favor of deporting them? You bet I am. And we ought to start with the criminals.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says those who comply will avoid charges and will get help returning to their home country. President Trump is announcing a new pathway to citizenship for wealthy investors from foreign nations. The U.S. will begin selling gold cards for $5 million. Mr. Trump says the gold card is similar to a green card, but at a, quote, higher level of sophistication. A near miss on the runway at Midway Airport in Chicago. A Southwest plane trying to land abruptly pulled back up when a business jet taxiing on the runway got in the way.
Hold right there, sir. Don't move. Hold position 560. Sorry, it was 2504. How'd that happen?
How did that happen, said the controller, aviation expert Chris Van Cleave.
These types of runway incursions are very rare, but they do occur and will be treated similar to how an actual collision would be investigated, as investigators will look to talk to the pilots and piece together why this incident happened.
The FAA says the smaller jet was not authorized to be there. Blue Origin launched its 10th space tourism flight yesterday from Western Texas. 6 people on the new Shepard rocket traveled to the edge of space and back safely. Space consultant Bill Harwood says space tourism, though, will not take off until sky-high prices come down.
It's going to be a long time before these sorts of flights become affordable to the average person. You know, tickets on a new Shepard are thought to go, anywhere from $400,000 on up per ride, and the ride is just 10 minutes long.
That's Bill Harwood with CBS News. Still to come on the Noon Report, a midweek edition. Cuomo's comeback could come this weekend, securing the northern border, and trans ban in girls' sports.
Good afternoon, I'm Kevin Williams. The pause on winter weather continues, at least for now. We'll have forecast details up in 10.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you. Let's check the stories making news where you live next. Both Rochester Gas and Electric and NYSEG are warning customers today be prepared for higher utility bills. They blame supply costs and the brutally cold winter this year. Anyone who needs help paying their bill should contact their local utility. Could Washington's loss be Albany's gain? Family Life's Mark Webster.
With layoffs happening left and right in federal agencies, New York is hoping to cash in on the trend by offering state service jobs to furloughed federal workers. The You're Hired initiative will try to lure skilled federal workers to fill gaps on the state payroll. Some of the targeted jobs include first responders, engineers, legal professionals, and plow drivers. The state has set up a portal at ny.gov listing positions they're looking to fill. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you, Mark. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's urging striking prison guards to get back to work even as the state starts to take legal action.
It's been well over a week now where a number of prison guards remain off the job and on the picket lines. And Governor Kathy Hochul says legal proceedings are now starting against them.
Actions being taken by a number of individuals is putting the entire state at risk. We need them back to work. This must end immediately.
Prison guards are complaining of dangerous working conditions, a shortage in staff, and being forced to work overtime. The governor says she is working hard to address the issue of long hours.
These are hard jobs. Not everybody's signing up for them.
Thousands of National Guard members have been brought into the prisons across the state in place of the striking guards. Scott Pringle, New York.
Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo could announce as soon as this weekend he's running for mayor of New York City. And these voters say they'd welcome a Cuomo comeback.
I think maybe he'd bring something to the Democrats that is missing at the moment.
I think he has our best interest, you know. We need someone like him in here that's a strong Democrat.
The Democratic primary is in June. Governor Hochul recently announced she's implementing more oversight over the mayor's office. Cuomo resigned as governor in the summer of 2021 amid a sexual harassment scandal. Border Czar Tom Homan is meeting today with New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney about security concerns along the northern border.
90% of the people on the terror watch list have come across the northern border.
Tenney blames those security lapses on liberal policies emanating from Albany.
We also have seen this huge increase in illegal immigrants just coming into the New York State because of the policies of Kathy Hochul and the Democrats who run everything in Albany.
New York's northern border, by the way, with Canada stretches almost 450 miles. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro visited a child care center yesterday in Pottsville. That training center in Schuylkill County is losing employees to better paying jobs. Executive Director Michelle Delago.
The investment that Governor Shapiro is proposing for a recruitment and retention program for our child care teachers will work to close this revolving door. Education is not K-12, it's birth to 12.
Shapiro wants state lawmakers to approve his request for more than $50 million so schools can better recruit and retain teachers. Pennsylvania Congressman Glenn Thompson hopes a mineral rights deal between the U.S. and Ukraine will mark the beginning of the end of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Donald Trump's a deal maker. He's built his career on that. He's demonstrated as President of the United States his ability to do that. So I am hopeful and prayerful that occurs.
Ukraine's president will be at the White House on Friday. Penn State University may be closing some of its campuses.
Facing financial struggles and declining enrollment, Penn State is reviewing 12 of its 19 Commonwealth campuses for potential closure. The university's president, Neely Bendeputi, said in a statement Tuesday that a decision will be made by May, though closures would not take effect until at least 2027. The largest campuses and specialized schools are safe, but smaller locations serving declining populations are at risk. Campuses not on the chopping block include Abington, Altoona, Behrend, Berks, Brandywine, Harrisburg, and the Lehigh Valley. Penn State promises students will still have a path to complete their degrees, whether at another campus or online. Brian Query, Family Life News.
The Greece, New York school district's offering tax breaks to military veterans. The district says the exemption is designed to honor the services of vets in that Rochester suburb. Army veteran and Greece resident Tim Smith.
Most of us are like senior citizens. You know, for people that were in World War II, it's all combat vets. People that were in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, the Middle East, and other foreign lands. Veterans that left their homes, their families, and risked their life for our country. So this is it'll help their incomes, that's for sure.
The new tax exemption for veterans takes effect next year. 6 dogs at the Happy Tails Animal Shelter in Canandaigua, New York, have died as a result of a deadly virus. Officials at the shelter say the virus has since been contained. The dead dogs were connected to a recent animal abuse case. That shelter is set to reopen tomorrow. A new poll from the New York Times shows nearly 80% of Americans do not support biological boys playing in girls' sports. Former UPenn swimmer and women's rights activist Paula Scanlon.
I have many friends who are lifelong Democrats, family members even, that voted for Donald Trump this past November strictly because of this issue. And that shows how wildly unpopular it is. And again, 80% of Americans agree on this. How many issues do 80% of Americans agree on?
Just this week, the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association announced it would align with President Trump's executive order banning trans athletes in girls' sports. The Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission is searching for volunteers to help stock millions of trout in lakes and streams across the state. The stocking season starts as soon as Saturday and will run until trout season begins on April 5th. Time for us to talk sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, it was not looking good for the Buffalo Sabres on their home ice. The offense, stagnant. Not scoring in the first, not scoring in the second. Entering the third, they were down 2-0. But then the boys woke up. J.J. Peterka got them on the board. Alex Tuck evened things up. And then Henry Yukaharu buried the game winner. Buffalo 3, Anaheim 2. Dylan Cousins assisted on all 3 goals. The Rangers offense didn't waste any time strutting their stuff. Johnny Brodzinski scored twice in the first, and New York took down the Islanders 5-1. In Philadelphia, the Flyers blew out the Penguins 6-1. Noah Cates found the back of the net twice in the victory. Also skating to wins, the Maple Leafs, Canadiens, Blue Jackets, Lightning, Blues, Panthers, Red Wings, and the Utah Hockey Club. On to the NBA, your winners on the hardwood, the Celtics, Cavs, Rockets, Grizzlies, Pelicans, Warriors, and Lakers. And in football news, the Kansas City Chiefs are planning on Travis Kelce to return next season. The 35-year-old has an $11.5 million bonus due to kick in on March 15th, which would trigger in the final year of his contract. And in women's basketball, legend Diana Taurasi is calling it a career. The 42-year-old walks away from the game as arguably the most decorated women's basketball player ever. She's the leading scorer in WNBA history, voted the greatest player of all time by the league's fans, and became the first basketball player to win 6 Olympic gold medals back in August. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy Man. Still to come on the Noon Report, how to have the talk with your kids. You know, the birds and bees kind of conversation. How much longer with our winter thaw, and how come the flu has been so bad this year? We think we have the answer after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm Timothy Padgett. At the beginning of February, Larry Sanger announced that he had become a Christian. We should rejoice when anyone comes to faith, but this conversion is especially interesting. Sanger, the co-founder of Wikipedia, is another in a notable line of skeptics who have recently become believers or are well on their way to. Sanger's background makes him a seemingly unlikely convert. As he put it when describing his testimony, "Throughout my adult life, I've been a devotee of rationality, methodological skepticism, and a somewhat hard-nosed and no-nonsense, but always open-minded, rigor. I have a PhD in philosophy, my training being in analytic philosophy, a field dominated by atheists and agnostics. Once I slummed about on the fringes of the Ayn Rand community, which is also heavily atheist. So old friends and colleagues who lost touch might be surprised." Sanger's full story is worth reading. It is that of a highly intelligent man coming to terms with truth after years of wandering through academia, famously penning skeptical blogs and essays about morality, good, evil, the West, and God. At one time, Sanger decided to start reading the Bible, not because he wanted to find God, but because he was, quote, trained as a close reader of difficult texts, and he wanted to understand it properly. Like C.S. Lewis, another reluctant convert, Sanger found that the Bible could sustain the interrogation of all his critical questions. He slowly began experimenting with talking to God and reading through apologetic works that put God the Creator in the middle of even the more complex realities of the cosmos and science. Though Sanger is a prominent figure with a mind that resembles an Oxford mathematician, the likes of John Lennox, his conversion is a familiar one. He grew up in a Christian home where church attendance and prayer were a normal part of life. Like any kid, he had questions about his faith. He looked at the lives of the people around him, and they didn't always live up to their claims. He brought concern to a church leader, and instead of engaging with the young man, the teacher dismissed him. So many journeys away from Christianity begin with a similar dismissal. So Sanger's questions resolved into strong doubts. He never embraced fully fledged atheism, and he frankly found many atheistic arguments uncompelling. But he did become an agnostic, on the logic that, since at least the type of Christianity he'd been taught didn't provide the answers to the questions he thought mattered, skepticism was the better way than faith. Yet over the years, various life experiences like marriage and fatherhood, as well as his own innate curiosity, led him back to where he'd begun. One of the most helpful tools for him was the apologetics website, gotquestions.org, a great resource for anyone on that same path as Sanger. He was genuinely surprised to find that there were Christians out there who'd been sharing answers to his questions for centuries. In honest engagement with arguments for belief in God, but most of all, a straightforward reading of the Bible for himself, he'd come to see that Christianity really did have good and sufficient reasons behind it. Better reasons, in fact, than the doubt he depended on for years. Testimonies like this are inspiring. They remind us that no one is too far gone for God to bring back. Sanger's story, that of a young believer turned skeptic, turned agnostic, turned believer again, underscores the importance of ministries like Summit, Worldview Academy, and GotQuestions.org. These groups are great resources for parents and grandparents when kids have questions about Christianity. Curious, skeptical, and even cynical questions need teachers, apologists, who can not only respond with biblical truth, but who can offer confidence to live as Christians. Despite what the world around us says, we really do have reason to believe. For the Colson Center, I'm Dr. Timothy Paget. For more resources to live like a Christian in this cultural moment, go to breakpoint.org.
I thank you, Tim. Outside next, Kevin Williams.
Here's your Family Life weather forecast for this afternoon. Clouds, limited sun, a little bit of rain or some showers mixed with snowflakes reaching parts of northwest Pennsylvania. High temperatures 40s. Tonight cloudy with some rain and snow at times. Low temps 30s. Tomorrow cloudy, breezy, some showers. Temperatures in the 40s and dropping late. And then for Friday it's colder. Clouds, sun, flurries, and high temperatures in the 30s.
All right, Kevin, thank you. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Lots to get to Wednesday, February 26th. House Republicans have begun action on the Trump agenda, passing a budget blueprint last night that reframes the priorities of the federal government.
This is just a blueprint outlining what Congress wants to cut and spend, and now various committees have to go through the process of filling it out with actual policy.
CBS's Caitlin Huey Burns. President Trump holding the first cabinet meeting of his second term today, and Elon Musk is in the room. The world's richest man leading a cost-cutting effort to root out waste and abuse in the government. Federal agencies have been told to prepare for large-scale layoffs. Here's CBS's Weijia Jiang.
The administration plans to issue a new memo in the coming days directing agencies to prepare for large-scale firings, adding to the existing anxiety over directives to federal workers that continue to create more questions than answers.
The federal agencies are being asked to submit reorganization plans to the White House by the middle of March. The leader of war-torn Ukraine will be at the White House later this week to sign a mineral rights deal with the U.S. worth billions of dollars. President Trump reacting to the Volodymyr Zelensky trip.
I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, a very big deal.
Mr. Trump's demanding access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals to compensate for the billions in wartime aid that was approved during the Biden administration. President Trump showing off his depiction of life in a post-war Gaza.
Trump Gaza, shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1.
President Trump is sharing an AI-generated music video that shows him sunbathing in a newly renovated Gaza Strip. The video, posted on Truth Social Tuesday, shows the president lounging with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at a resort called Trump Gaza, while a rap song calls it a golden future. The video also shows Elon Musk eating hummus and tossing money into the air. The White House has not commented on the video. Trump said earlier this month that he would like to relocate Palestinians living in war-torn Gaza so he could turn it into a resort. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
The CDC has disappointing news today about the flu vaccine.
This year's flu vaccine was no match for this flu season, with nearly 1 million people going to the hospital since October. In about half the cases the CDC is tracking with the H3N2 strain of the virus, the vaccine did not work. Doctors say most people have pre-existing immunity to the flu, which can result in different immune responses. They say the H3N2 strain typically has a worse impact on older adults with more hospitalizations.
Matt Piper reporting this may make you think twice about a tall glass of whatever comes out of the tap.
Analysis of nearly 50,000 water systems in the U.S. has found that millions of Americans are drinking water that contain harmful chemicals, heavy metals, and radioactive substances at levels that exceed what scientists consider safe. The nonprofit organization, the Environmental Working Group, released its annual State of the American Drinking Water report, which identified 324 contaminants in drinking water with detectable levels found in nearly every community water system. In this year's report, the group also found that toxic forever chemicals, known as PFAS, were identified in the drinking water of more than 143 million Americans. Tracy Wolf, New York.
All right, Tracy, thank you for that. You are tuned in to the Noon Report, a Wednesday edition on Family Life.
Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Chris, welcome back.
Good to be here once again, Mark.
Good to have you. Well, a bit of a sensitive topic we're going to try to tackle today, namely how to talk to teens and preteens about sex. That might bring back some painful memories of their parents awkwardly sitting them down for the talk, and I don't know who it was more painful for, parents or the kids.
That could probably be a tie, I would say.
Yes, but for kids of today, things have certainly changed a lot compared to those old birds and bees lectures. It's just about impossible to avoid being bombarded with information, and much of it inaccurate, and at ever younger ages, it seems, too.
No, absolutely, and we're just seeing this play out in school districts across the country, and the ongoing debate is just how much should schools be involved in sex education, particularly when it comes to the hot-button topics of today.
Of course, we saw that play out here in the listening area with a debate in the Penfield School District with a controversial book that wound up being available to kids as young as kindergartners. That brought a lot of anger against the school board there, and a lot of parents concerned, and that's not an isolated case either, is it?
Parents need to be aware that this is going on. They're going to attempt to put these types of books into our school libraries, our public libraries, and ultimately into teaching situations as well. Parents, you need to be aware. You cannot sit back idly and think that, because I go to this school district or that school district, that it's not going to impact me. No, you need to be aware. You need to know exactly what your children are being taught in the schools.
And certainly a sensitive topic like this needs to be addressed first at home.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Scripture is just full of examples of why parents need to be first and foremost educating and disciplining their children. And that is very much needed today, where we just drop the balls of society and really the world in doing that. And it's time, parents, to pick up that mantle once again and be responsible for your children's education, especially when it comes to sensitive and controversial topics.
You're listening to Real Answers. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about how to talk to your teens and preteens about sex. I guess one of the tough questions is when.
It really is very situationally dependent and circumstantial, quite honestly, because there's going to be some children that either through no fault of their own or maybe through bad choices find themselves in a situation where they are having to have discussions about sexuality. And one particular situation that might come up is if you are the parent of a teen or a preteen or even younger, unfortunately, where let's say you find evidence in your child's room or somewhere else that your child is sexually active or has been or is being exposed to, let's say, pornography. What do you do at that point? It really depends on what the situation is, how you approach it, and the age of the child, whether you're talking about a son or a daughter. One big thing to remember is don't be afraid to address the topic. Do it directly. And of course, if you need some assistance in doing that, there's great books on the subject. Focus on the Family has good books on the subject, or speak to a professional, mental health counselor. Get some help. Don't be afraid, though. That fear is what keeps many parents from just really addressing this head on. You may or may not make mistakes doing so, but that's okay. Don't let that discourage you from doing what you need to do, which is to have very frank and forward conversations with your children.
Probably can't address this completely without talking about electronics, because so much of that wrong information and inappropriate information comes by that route.
It's unbelievable just how easily accessible pornography and inappropriate material is because of computers and because of these handheld devices. Everybody walks around now with a computer, a telephone, and a camera in their pockets all the time now. I mean, and obviously the devil's our enemy. He is relentless attacking families in this area. It's just one of the biggest things you need to do as a parent is know where your children are going online. And if you've been a little too generous in allowing the online activity, it's okay to say, folks, we need to make some adjustments here. This is what we're going to be doing from now on. And yeah, you're going to get some pushback pushback from your children, but it's worth the pushback to deal with it if in the long run it's going to protect them and help them develop a healthier sense of themselves, but also avoid the trap of pornography and inappropriate sexual activity. That phone or whatever screen your child is using, please know what is on there. Please know where they're going. It's not the school's responsibility to do that. It's yours as the parent. Okay, ultimately, you are the parent. You are your child's greatest influence. You need to know where they're going. Something else too, Mark, when you're having conversations with your teens, be direct, talk about it, use proper terminology, avoid using today's vernacular because that is just, a lot of times that is laced with humor and laced with inappropriate undertones as well. Be very clear, very specific on why inappropriate sexual activity is unhealthy, literally at every level, physical, spiritual, emotional health, why it's going to have detrimental impacts on them. They may not believe you, but they're hearing the truth. You got to remember, God uses the truth because he is the author of all truth. Make sure in all of these conversations that you are clearly telling them how much you love them and that you, as a loving Christian parent, you are not going to steer them wrong and that they can trust you on this.
You've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Thanks again, Chris.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you.
All right, great discussion today, guys. Thank you. Real Answers airs Wednesdays during the Noon Report. You can subscribe, listen to, and share this feature along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here's your Family Life regional weather forecast. So on the midday weather map, the disturbance that brought some showers yesterday is east of us now, and a fairly tranquil day is underway across the land. Our next weather maker is low pressure coming out of the Midwest. It'll bring rain and a bit of snow tonight, some showers tomorrow, colder weather in its wake. For this afternoon, clouds, limited sun, a little bit of rain or some showers mixed with snowflakes reaching parts of northwest Pennsylvania. High temperatures 40s. Tonight, cloudy with some rain and snow at times, low temps 30s. Tomorrow, cloudy, breezy, some showers. Temperatures in the 40s and dropping late. And then for Friday, it's colder, clouds, sun, flurries, and high temperatures in the 30s.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Finally at noon, prom season's almost here, and Prom Perfect starts tomorrow in Perry County, Pennsylvania. For 20 years, this 3-day event's been providing families and students across the Commonwealth anything and everything they need for prom. And here's the best part, it's all free. Prom Perfect organizer Rose Bellis tells ABC 27.
When you see the kids and how their face lights up when they find the perfect dress, walking in here thinking, oh, it's free, they're not going to have anything I want, you know what I mean? And then not only as a mom myself, knowing a lot of the people in the community through church and, you know, this outreach and different outreaches that I help with through the church, it's definitely tear-jerking.
Prom Perfect provides dresses, tuxedos, shoes, ties, jewelry, purses, and makeup at no cost whatsoever. It starts tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the Family Life Center in Newport, Pennsylvania, and will run through Saturday. And that's our world, the world we live in. Wednesday, February 26th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.